J.J. Yeley getting ready to join us. And, again, we talk about some of the powerhouse teams and some of the underdog teams. J.J., I guess if we're going to have an underdog team in the garage, I want a veteran driver behind the wheel. And certainly one that I would have to look at is the guy that's joining us right now, in J.J. Yeley.
Yeah, he is a fantastic racer. He's done a lot of different things. He's run the Indianapolis 500, multiple Daytona 500s, and you're back to give it another go here. What's the drive? What keeps J.J. Yeley coming back to the racetrack no matter what kind of race car it is?
You got me there? Sorry. I'm a race car driver. This is what I do for a living. This is what I love. I mean, I still have the drive to go compete and get the most out of what I can. And, looking at these new cars, that's the perfect example. The cars are the same. We haven't seen that for a number of years. So my opportunity and chances of putting myself in position to win this race have never been better. So, thankful that Hex.com has come on board. It was a late program to get, finalized. Made sure we have Roush power and with the Roush Yates Fords. And, again, the cars being the same make a huge difference. Obviously you still have to put them together correctly and find those nuances. And your big teams are already trying to push that envelope, which, I'm sure you've already gone over so far that NASCAR's made a couple changes. They're trying to fix it, and we'll see what happens.
Before and maybe you want to touch on some of those changes in a moment, Alex, but before we get to that, I'm thinking of adaptability in the Cup Series. We go through a change periodically. You go through a change all the time because you're not afraid to jump into this type of, a sprint car, a midget, a super late model, a truck, an Xfinity car, a Cup car. It doesn't matter. You've driven them all. So when it comes to change, I would think that J.J. Yeley would be one who would embrace it because you're just basically saying, give me what you got. Let me into the seat, and I'll go ahead and wheel it. Is that accurate?
100%. I mean, these cars are a version of a car that I've driven at some point. I tried to explain earlier that to me it feels more like a mid to late 2000s Cup car. You go back to the cars are streamlined, they're very slick. Like yesterday, 2 and 3 cars, single file drafting. You try to get in that draft pack, it was impossible. And it didn't matter who it was. It didn't matter if it was an RCR car with a Tyler Reddick or, Joey Logano. Just watching those cars trying to blend in was very difficult. So I think, you're not going to see the huge runs like we've seen with the cars that punch a bigger hole in the air. Again, we didn't, I wasn't a part of the bigger drafting groups to see what that's going to be like. But again, I'm just going to have to adapt and go with it. The unknown is the agendas that are going to happen on Thursday. Like you said, there's a kind of a shortage of parts. Teams are worried. I think they've relayed that to enough drivers that, you can't take those chances because the backup car might not be in the trailer. The backup car is what's going to go to California in 2 weeks.
How difficult is it as a driver, JJ, to keep that in the back of your mind, but also knowing when you're out there competing tomorrow night in the duel, you need to get another spot or two. How do you balance that?
Well, for me, that's not the case. I have to go out there and I've got to race my way in, so I'm going to be 100% from the drop of the green. You're just looking at the other teams and what their agendas look like. So, depending on how it breaks out, I have a teammate with Timmy Hill, and if we're in the same race, I think we can work to each other to put ourselves in the best position. It doesn't mean with 5 or 10 laps to go, between the two of us, we're fighting for that one spot. So that'll be interesting to see. So I hope that's not the case because, that would be a tough decision to try to deal with, knowing how you're going to race them and what the outcome might be. But again, the ultimate goal for my sponsor and myself is to make the Daytona 500, regardless of what that is. If that means someone's coming across my bumper and it doesn't work out well for them, anything can happen when you come to this race.
When you're racing prior against a Stewart Haas team and they've got, a dozen cars down here, a Penske team or a Hendrick team that's got a dozen cars down here. We all know that that's not the case this year, and by their own admission, objective one is to not tear up a race car on Thursday. You, on the other hand, it's like, it's wreckers or checkers because I'm here to get into the Daytona 500. Do you expect them to race differently around you on Thursday, knowing that you've got an agenda? They do as well, but it's a completely different agenda. You're trying to get to the front. They're trying to maintain a race car.
Well, yes and no. And obviously for me, I'm not worried about what they care or think of what's going on. I'm sure that the spotters will relay kind of what the situation is going to be. I've been doing this long enough that I'm not worried about making friends. I'm worried about making the race. So whatever that takes, if I have to, there's going to be some more aggressive side drafting. I think you're going to have to do things bigger than what we used to, again, to try to get the runs and make the passes with this new car. So I'm not worried about it. I think we've definitely put a lot more emphasis on the car driving well. I know that of the cars that are non-charter cars, you have some that have affiliation with big teams, and I'm sure they're sharing that information. So to me, I think the 50 of Kaz Grall and the 62 of Noah Gragson are probably going to be the two fastest cars of the six. Again, with these new changes, I don't know how that's going to affect them because, again, watching their cars yesterday, they looked like they were full skewed. So nobody really knows what those changes are going to be or how much they're going to be. Is that good for a tenth or two, or is that a half a second for these new changes that NASCAR is going to implement?
And change number one from NASCAR happened overnight, where they've taken the rear skew out of the car, where they don't what we call crab down the straightaway. So advantage, disadvantage for you and your race team?
Advantage, because again, we did not put as much skew in the car knowing that we wanted the car to drive good in the race. And it's all about just manipulating the air and the way it gets around the spoiler to your fans. So the more you can make the car crab, the less air and the slower the other cars or the air comes around the car. So good for us, but again, not knowing how much that's going to change the playing field.
And we talked about it yesterday. During the practice, it became very visible once they dropped the green flag and we saw the cars out here compared to what we saw in L.A. Obviously, that wasn't the case there. It was very much the case here. J.J. Yeley is joining us right now, veteran at this level, been there, been in the situation before. When you try to explain, or can you try to explain to the fans the highs and lows and the pressure of big-time stock car racing at the highest level, when the Daytona 500 victory lane is 25 feet away from us, the objective to get into the race, you look calm, cool, and very composed, but inside, I got to believe you're thinking, let's go, let's get this going. True? What's the mental preparation now as you get ready to go the rest of the weekend?
Oh, no, it's definitely true because, there's definitely a lot of pressure on myself, and I'm going to put that pressure on myself. I'm not getting it from MBM Motorsports, but knowing that, it's feast or famine for my sponsor. There's 77,000 stakers in Hex.com, and this sponsorship was literally put together by a community, and they are so supportive already of everything that we've done, and they're just so excited just to see the car on the racetrack and go out there and try to make the race. So, more or less I'm going to be doing it for them just because, there's a great opportunity that they could do more races, but they're just so excited about the opportunity. But, again, done this long enough, the butterflies aren't there until, we roll out for the duels and you're out there and, it's hard to explain to fans that just the smallest little thing on a racetrack can drop you back, a car length or 2 car lengths. And again, not knowing that the cars have the ability to suck back up, you just can't have a mistake. There's no room for error when it comes to this race. And you can put your confidence that you're following a guy that's going to go race and he decides he's going to drop to the back. You'll never get back up to the pack. So, again, I think that's the difference between going out there racing for your life and not worrying about friends, drafting partners, just going out there and trying to keep close to the front of the field and hope for the best.
JJ, you're one of 3 drivers entered in the Daytona 500 here in 2022 that can answer the question I'm about to ask you. Yourself, Jacques Villeneuve, and Kurt Busch. You've raced the Daytona 500. You've done it 15 times. You've raced in the Indianapolis 500. What's more intimidating? Drafting where you can't see anything past the front bumper and spoiler of the car in front of you going to turn 1 at Daytona, or making that hard 90-degree left-hand turn at the valley at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway?
I would honestly, it would be the Daytona, or it would be the Indianapolis 500. And obviously, when I ran the 500, I was 20 years old. My pavement experience was almost nothing, and to be a part of that race, it wasn't a sold-out race like it was, for the 100th running, but the people, the fans running 3 wide going into turn 1. It's already kind of a scary thought going 230 mile an hour down there and making 90-degree corner. Then you start doing it with the race and the turbulence of the other cars. I think that was probably definitely more frightening than coming here to the Daytona 500. But
all right, here's a thought and I'm not sure if I'm correct on this. You grew up down the street from Manzanita, basically, correct?
Correct.
And you ran Manzanita. Yes?
Yes, I've won races at Manzanita. I've ended up in the junkyard back when
Outside
Manzanita was
turn
still
3 and 4, right?
Outside turn 3 and 4, correct.
All right, so here's my question. As we wrap up with J.J. Yeley, and it just made me think of it when you were talking about Indy with J.J. and Daytona with J.J. And I remember, the Manzanita, I just wanted to make sure that I was right on that. You've driven everything. Well, maybe not everything. If there's one car, one track, anywhere on the planet that you haven't driven that you'd say, I would give anything to do that, what would it be?
Wow, that is a tough question. Honestly, I don't know that I have one. I enjoy watching Formula One. I don't know that, I wouldn't say I want to go to, Morocco or, maybe 24-hour Le Mans, something like that. That's never been inside of me. I've always been an oval dirt track racer. I've been that, from the very beginning. I still am now. I was streaming races from Volusia last night from the garage just because, I still love dirt racing that much. So, I would just try to break off and go play a little bit. I still try to do that every now and again, but, the risk versus reward isn't always there. I'm one of the, few guys that have gotten injured going to play racing dirt. I broke my neck in 2009, and, that's something you don't think about as a race car driver, that this is dangerous until it happens to you. So, I still try to be safe about what I do when I go play, but, I enjoy what I do now, and I don't think I would change it.
All the best to you in qualifying tonight and the Blue-Green Vacation Duel tomorrow night. J.J. Yeley, trying to make your 16th Daytona 500.
All right, I appreciate it, guys.
Take care, J.J. Good guy, and he is one who can wheel basically anything that he slides into. All right, now we got a fight breaking out here. All right, settled now.
16 of them. That dude's old. How old is he?